I never thought I'd be the guy to find myself in a situation like this. My life used to be simple work, come home, watch a game or two, maybe cook dinner with her. Sarah was perfect for me, or so I thought. That is, until the day I accidentally saw those messages on her phone. I'm still trying to get my head around it, still trying to figure out how everything turned into this chaotic mess. It all started last Thursday. I came home a little earlier than usual. Sarah said she'd be at a business dinner with her boss, Tom. I trusted her. She had no reason not to tell me the truth, right? But something about her tone that afternoon had felt off. I remember hearing her voice from the living room, a little too hurried, a little too rehearsed. I didn't think much of it. I was just happy she was working late. At least, that's what she told me. When I got home that evening, I was already tired, ready to crash early. I dropped my work bag by the door, kicked off my shoes, and headed straight for the couch. My phone buzzed on the coffee table. It was a notification from her messaging app. I almost didn't look, almost. But then I saw her name blinking at me and curiosity got the better of me. I unlocked her phone and that's when everything changed. There were messages, lots of them, flirty, intimate, and way too personal. They weren't just casual chatter. They were heated in that way people hide because they're ashamed or afraid. Tom was calling her beautiful more times than I could count, and she was responding with things I'd never heard her say. My stomach sank like a rock had dropped into it. My palms grew slick with sweat. How could she lie to my face about being at some dinner when she was in bed with her boss? I scrolled through the messages, reading every word. They'd been cheating on me for weeks, maybe longer. I saw plans for secret meetups, whispers about how their world was better without him, and even a few pictures her in a hotel room, her lips red and glossy, Tom's arm around her waist. All of it right there in my hands. I felt like a fool. My head spun. The room seemed to tilt as a terrible realization took hold. I'd missed the signs, ignored the clues. I remember clutching the phone so tight that my fingers cramped. The world around me blurred out. My stomach twisted and my heart hammered against my chest. I wanted to scream, but all that came out was a sharp, bitter silence. I had to sit down, my knees buckling beneath me. I looked at her messages again and again, feeling like I'd been punched in the gut. How could she have lied so easily? How many times had I been blind? Her voice kept echoing in my mind. It's just work, I swear, you have to trust me. Yeah, right. I felt the heat rising behind my eyes, that betrayed, hot feeling that you get when your entire world crumbles. I wanted to smash something, to tear through her phone and erase every bit of that evidence. But I knew what I had to do next. The truth was out now. I had seen it all. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I brewed coffee at dawn, staring out the window, trying to piece together what I'd uncovered. Every nerve in my body was on fire. I kept thinking about her, about Tom, all the lies. My mind kept circling back to that hotel picture, that moment she looked so vulnerable and guilty. I knew I couldn't ignore it anymore. I needed a plan, something calculated, something to make her pay. I wasn't the revenge type, but she crossed a line and I was done playing nice. As the morning sun peeked through the blinds, I started drafting my plan. I knew I had to be smart, no reckless moves. I wanted her to feel the weight of what she'd done. I didn't want to just walk away, pretending everything was fine. That's not who I am. I've been betrayed, and now it's time she understood the damage she caused. I think I finally understood what it really means to lose trust, and how badly I wanted to take it back. I was more than ready to make her see the consequences, but I had to be careful, calculating. Because once I made my move, there was no going back. And I didn't want to just confront her. I wanted her to know I was in control now. I needed her to realize that her lies and betrayal had a price. I watched her face when I revealed everything. That's when I knew I'd start my revenge. No more hiding, no more secrets, just the truth and a plan to make her regret it all. The moment I decided to act, I knew I had to be meticulous. This wasn't about some petty revenge. I wanted her to feel what I felt, like the ground was shifting beneath her, like trust was something fragile I was shattering with every move. She thought she could keep this secret forever, but I was going to make damn sure she paid for it. First thing I did was gather everything I needed. I pulled out my laptop and started piecing together the evidence. Screenshots of the messages, hotel receipts, her calendar showing business dinners that didn't quite add up. I printed photos of the hotel room she'd sent, the ones I saved on my phone. Every piece of physical evidence was laid out on my desk like a blueprint of her betrayal. I wanted to feel in control, not blind to what was happening behind my back. But I knew that just having evidence wasn't enough. I had to make her realize she'd been caught, that I knew the truth and that I was ready to take action. I decided to leave a trail, something that would make her realize I wasn't about to roll over and accept the lie. So I planted a little surprise in her inbox, a fake email from a private investigator I hired, someone who would supposedly have proof of her affair. I made it look real. I used a burner email, a fake ID, and set up a voicemail that sounded convincing. It was a small step, but crucial. I wanted her to panic, to feel the walls closing in. The plan was simple but calculated. I'd let her discover the evidence, then confront her, but I wasn't going to do it right away. I needed her to sweat, to wonder if I knew everything. I set the trap, then started waiting. Every hour felt like an eternity. I kept busy, but my mind kept circling back to that moment I found the messages. I'd replay it in my head constantly, the feeling of betrayal, that sickening sense of being played. Then, the moment arrived. I watched her reaction by hiding in the hallway while she saw the email pop up on her phone. Her eyes widened, her face drained of color. I heard her gasp, then silence. That's when I stepped into the living room, cool as can be, and let her see me. Her hands trembled as she tried to delete the message, but I was faster. I blocked her and calmly said, "Thought I should see this for myself." Her eyes darted around, looking for an escape, but I kept my voice steady. "You lied about where you were, Sarah. You told me you were at a dinner, but I found the messages, the hotel receipts, the texts." I saw her trying to deny it, but the words stuck in her throat. She looked like a cornered animal. I could feel the rage rising, but I kept my tone cold. "You thought I wouldn't find out, that you could keep this secret forever." Her face twisted with guilt and defiance. "It's not what it looks like. Save it," I snapped. "You don't get to lie anymore. You've been cheating on me with Tom. How long has this been going on?" She hesitated, then mumbled, "A few weeks." I shook my head slowly. "A few weeks? No, Sarah. This has been going on for longer. I saw the messages, I saw the pictures, and I know there's more you're not telling me." My fists clenched and I felt the cold adrenaline spike through my veins. The betrayal ran deep, but I had to keep control. I told her I was done. I told her I wasn't going to sit around and be the fool anymore. I said I'd make sure she understood the damage she caused. That's when I revealed my plan. My revenge wasn't just about breaking her down, but making her feel what she'd taken from me. I wanted her to realize she couldn't just cheat and walk away without consequences. Her tear-filled eyes begged for forgiveness, but I knew better. There was no coming back from this. I'd made up my mind to cut her loose, to end this chapter for good. The trust was shattered and the damage was done. The plan I'd been laying out in my mind now had a new purpose: to make her genuinely regret what she'd done, to make her understand she'd lost something irreplaceable. As she sat there, trembling, I knew I'd have to follow through. I wanted her to remember that day, that moment she realized I knew everything. That's when I decided to give her a taste of what was coming. I'd set the wheels in motion, and once I did, there was no turning back. The next step was executing my revenge, something subtle, something calculated. I wanted her to feel the loss, the guilt, the shame. I just had to wait for her to make the first move, to panic enough to fall into my trap. I could feel the weight of it all pressing down on me, but I also felt a strange sense of relief. Finally, I was taking control. And the best part, she had no idea what was coming next. The waiting game was brutal. I kept my cool, but inside I was practically vibrating. Every time she looked at me, I could see the panic behind her eyes. I didn't tell her I knew everything yet. I wanted her to think she still had some control, some leeway. But I was planning something that would hit her harder than any screaming match or angry breakup ever could. That night, she kept trying to reach out to me, as if she could fix this with apologies or tears. Her voice cracked when she said, "I swear it was a mistake. It didn't mean anything. Please, let's talk." I just looked at her, letting the silence stretch long enough to make her nervous. "No more talking," I finally said. "You lied, cheated, and made me look like a fool. I think you need to understand what you've really done." I knew I had to be careful. I wanted her to think I was angry but not desperate. That way, when I pulled the trigger on my plan, she'd be completely caught off guard. I started my next move that very night. I knew her routine. She always left her phone on the charger in the bedroom, usually turned away from her pillow. I slipped into her purse when she wasn't looking, grabbed her keys, her wallet, and most importantly, her phone. It was risky, but I had no choice. I needed access to her messages, her photos, everything. I didn't take everything, just enough to keep her guessing. I copied her private messages, the ones she thought no one would see. Then I deleted my tracks, made sure no one would suspect I'd been through her things. I kept her phone closed, acting normal when she asked where I was going. Inside, I felt an odd mix of satisfaction and disgust. That night, I sat in my own living room, scrolling through her messages again. I wanted to memorize every word, every sign of her guilt. I didn't want her to forget that I knew that I was in control. I knew she'd eventually realize her world was crumbling. I was building my case, one message at a time. The next morning, I confronted her. I sat her down, looked her straight in the eyes, and said, "We need to talk about everything." Her face turned pale and her hands trembled as she tried to find words. "You've been lying," I told her. "I've seen the messages. I know it's been going on for weeks. You cheated on me with Tom." I saw her swallow hard, trying to stay composed. "You thought you could hide it forever, didn't you?" She looked away. "It was a mistake. I didn't mean for you to find out like this. Too late for that." I said, "You made your choice. I want you to see what I've done." I pulled out her phone and showed her the evidence, the screenshots, the hotel receipts I'd planted, the pictures she'd sent him. Her eyes widened as she stared at the screen, realizing I had everything. "You think you can just fix this?" I asked. "It's over, Sarah. I've got my plan, and I'm going to make sure you regret ever crossing me." Her crying grew louder. "Please, I didn't want to hurt you. It was just a stupid mistake." "No, you made a choice," I cut her off. "And now I'm making mine. You're going to wish you never did this." I paused, feeling the rush of adrenaline. "Your betrayal is going to cost you more than you ever imagined." I told her I was leaving, that I'd be taking some time to think. I had already started to think about the next steps. The revenge wasn't just about hurting her. It was about making her understand that I wasn't going to be played for a fool. I was going to make her see what her lies had cost her, and I'd do it in a way that would leave her trembling. As I packed my things that morning, I knew I had crossed a line, but I didn't care. She'd pushed me to this point. I was done being the naive husband. I was about to give her a taste of her own medicine, and she wouldn't see it coming. I took one last look around the apartment, knowing I'd never come back. The plan was set. She was going to feel the fallout. She just didn't know how soon. And that's when I realized maybe this nightmare was just beginning. I spent the next couple of days orchestrating the final phase of my plan. I knew she was desperate to fix what she'd broken, but I wasn't interested in just a quick confrontation. I wanted her to feel the full weight of betrayal, guilt, and loss. It had to be calculated, precise. First, I contacted a private investigator I'd found online, someone discreet, reputable, and capable of digging up stuff I couldn't. I didn't want to do anything reckless. I just wanted confirmation that she'd continue her affair. The investigator assured me he'd get me enough evidence to make her squirm, and I paid him to follow her around a bit, track her movements, and gather any new messages or photos. While waiting for that, I started planting small things around the house, things that would make her question her own reality. A hairpin from her boss's office, left in the bathroom. A receipt from Tom's favorite cafe stuck into her purse. Small, subtle, but enough to remind her that I was watching, that I knew her secrets. I wasn't just going to confront her with evidence. I was going to make her feel like every part of her life was crumbling. Then I set my next move into motion. I made a fake social media profile, pretending to be someone interested in getting to know her. I started messaging her, flirty, suggestive, but always vague enough not to raise suspicion. I wanted her to think Tom was still chasing her, still fighting to keep her. I knew this would make her paranoid, anxious, desperate. That's when I planned to strike. One afternoon, while she was out, I slipped into her phone again, unlocked her email, and sent her a warning. a message from the fake profile, telling her I knew everything, that I was watching her, that she'd better be careful. I made sure it was convincing enough to make her panic, but not so obvious that she'd suspect me. I wanted her to feel the pressure mounting. When she saw the message, her reaction was priceless. Her face went pale and she looked around nervously. She called me, her voice trembling. "Who is this? What's going on?" I played it cool. "Just a warning, you're playing with fire, Sarah. Be careful with Tom. You're not the only one watching now." That was the moment I knew I'd succeeded in planting doubt in her mind. Now, I just had to wait for more to fall into place. I kept a close eye on her, watching her become increasingly paranoid. She'd jump at the slightest sound, check her phone constantly, and her hands trembled as she tried to act normal. The investigator finally got back to me with footage, him following her to a hotel, her meeting Tom in the parking lot. There was proof enough to make her realize she was cornered. I printed out everything, adding that to my growing stack of evidence, and then I planned the final confrontation. I'd arranged to be home when she returned from her business dinner, which was really a prearranged meetup with me. I'd sit her down, show her everything I'd gathered, and let her see herself caught in the act. I wanted her to feel the shame, the regret, and most of all, the loss of control. It was a cold, calculated move, but I knew it was the only way to get through to her. I wasn't going to be the fool anymore. I'd take her down with her own secrets, and she'd finally understand what betrayal really costs. I was ready, nerves steady, heart pounding, because once I did this, there was no going back. And honestly, I looked forward to it. When she finally arrived, I was already waiting, the evidence spread out on the table. She hesitated at the doorway, her eyes flickering between me and the mess of proof. That's when I knew I'd finally caught her, and she wouldn't be walking away from this unscathed. That moment felt like the calm before the storm. She stood there in the doorway, eyes darting around the evidence I'd laid out, screenshots of messages, hotel receipts, photos she'd sent Tom, all of it laid bare. Her face was pale, eyes wide with shock, but there was that stubborn spark of defiance still burning. She thought she could talk her way out, that she'd deny or minimize everything, but I wasn't in the mood for her crap anymore. "Sarah," I said calmly but firmly, "you've lied to me for weeks. You've been cheating on me with your boss, Tom, and I have proof." I pushed the stack of papers and screenshots toward her. "You thought you could keep this hidden, that I'd never find out, but guess what?" I did. Her lips trembled, but she tried to speak. "It's not what it looks like." "Oh, it's exactly what it looks like," I cut her off. "You're a liar, Sarah. You played me for a fool. You betrayed everything we built together." I paused, watching her struggle to find words. "And I want to know, how long has this been going on? Weeks? Months?" She hesitated, then whispered, "A few months. I didn't mean for you to find out like this." I clenched my fists so tight I felt my nails digging into my palms. "You didn't mean for me to find out? Well, congratulations, you succeeded, and now I'm done." I stepped closer, voice low and dangerous. "I've been planning this for days. I wanted you to see what's coming, to feel the weight of your lies. I've set up everything. The proof, the evidence. You're not walking away from this without consequences." Her eyes filled with tears, but her voice was stubborn. "Please don't do this. I made a mistake. I was stupid, but I love you." "Love?" I snorted. "You think cheating on me with your boss is love? That's just selfishness. You threw everything away for a few moments of excitement. Now it's time for you to face the music." I wanted her to understand that this wasn't just about betrayal. It was about respect, about boundaries she crossed, and how she'd wrecked everything. I told her I'd been recording her, watching her, and that I had enough evidence to end this relationship for good. I was done pretending I didn't see what she was doing. She kept trying to deny it, to plead, but I was past that. I wanted her to feel helpless, vulnerable, and truly sorry. "I'm not the same guy who trusted you," I said, voice steady. "I'm done being the fool. This is the end." I reached into my pocket and pulled out the key to the apartment. "Here's your key back. Consider this a clean break." Her face crumpled. "Please." "No," I interrupted. "You made your choice. You had your chance to be honest, but you threw it away. Don't bother trying to fix this. It's over." I handed her the key, then turned to walk out the door, not wanting to hear another word. As I left, I heard her sobbing behind me. I felt a strange mix of relief and anger. For so long, I had trusted her blindly. Now I finally saw her for what she was, someone willing to betray everything for something fleeting. I knew I'd lose a lot, but I also knew I'd gained clarity. Walking away from that apartment, I felt the weight lift just slightly, although the ache of betrayal still burned deep inside. I'd taken back my control, cleaned the slate, and set a boundary she couldn't cross again. The pain was fresh, but I was finally free. This was the end and the beginning of something new, something I'd build from the ashes of her lies. I realized then that revenge wasn't just about hurting her. It was about reclaiming my dignity and showing her that I wasn't someone to be played with. That's how I wanted to end things, with the key in my hand and the lesson clear. No more secrets, no more lies. Just me, standing tall, finally free. In the days that followed, everything changed. The apartment was eerily quiet without her. That silence became a strange comfort, like a weight finally lifted from my shoulders. I kept her key in my pocket for a while, feeling its cold metal against my skin. It was a symbol of what I'd just done, of the boundary I'd drawn. No more lies, no more betrayal. I had taken control, restored at least a fragment of my dignity. I filed for divorce a week later. The process was straightforward. I wanted her out of my life completely. I didn't send her any long, dramatic messages. No need to. She knew exactly what she'd lost. I handed over the keys to the apartment and closed that chapter forever. The last thing I did was change the locks and clear out her belongings. I didn't want her showing up unannounced, trying to salvage what was already dead. Walking away from everything I thought I knew, I felt a strange sense of closure. The betrayal hurt like hell, but it also taught me something valuable. Trust is fragile, and sometimes you have to step back and take control before it's too late. I realized I'd been blind for too long, ignoring the signs and giving too much of myself without questioning. That lesson stung, but it was necessary. Now I'm rebuilding. It's slow, and I get angry sometimes when I think about what she did, how she threw away what we had for some fleeting moment of satisfaction. But I also understand that revenge isn't about hurting her forever. It's about making sure I don't get played again. I need to protect myself, set boundaries, and never let someone cross those lines again. Looking back, I know I could have handled it differently. Maybe I could have confronted her earlier, talked to her directly instead of planning a silent takedown. But I also know that if I hadn't done what I did, I'd still be living with the pain of betrayal, second-guessing myself. I needed that final act, taking back control and ending things decisively. It was brutal but necessary. So if you're in a similar spot, here's what I learned. Protect yourself first. Trust is earned, not given blindly. When someone crosses that line, don't hesitate to take control. Be honest with yourself about what you won't accept. And most importantly, remember, you don't have to forgive everyone. Sometimes the best revenge is walking away with your head held high. In the end, I'm better for it. I might carry scars, but I also carry a sense of liberation I never knew I could have. I learned that even in heartbreak, there's power in choosing your own ending. And now, I'm finally free to start over without her shadow looming over me. That's what true closure looks like.